Right.
All right, good evening. This is the Tuesday, June 19th, 2018 meeting of the Riley Conservation Commission. This meeting is hereby called to order under the authority of the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Town of Riley Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw. Notice is given that both a video and audio recording will be made of this meeting. The agent will now call the roll for attendance.
Arthur Page.
Here.
Kurt Turner.
Here.
Bob Garner.
Here.
Judy Keys, absent. Dan Shinnick.
Here.
Sam Strife.
Here.
Howard Vogel, absent. Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum present.
All right, very good. That brings us to our first item, which is payroll and/or vendor bills.
A slight mixture of both. Request authorization of payroll. And for your review, our hours sheet. And we have a request for reimbursement. And there's the two backup invoices. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, that concludes that portion.
The next is the previous minutes of meetings. There's 3 meetings.
Well, we have two
Two.
sets of minutes completed. We have January 3rd, 2012,
Yeah.
and we have January 24th, 2012.
All right, did everybody get a chance to look at the electronic version of the January 3rd meeting?
Yes.
Was there anything noted? I see. Everybody is okay with it as written? Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved, thank you.
That brings us to the next one, which is the 24th, 2012. Everybody have a chance to see the electronic version of that? Any issues, items, or omissions? Do I hear a motion to accept them as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, approved, thank you very much.
The next item is conservation restriction 42 Newbury Road, map 5, parcel lot 40, John Sullivan Jr. You have the floor.
If I may, thank you. My name is Brad Latham. I'm here with John Sullivan, Chrissy Mason, who are the owners of the property. As you may recall, 42 Newbury Road, the back portion of that, so 5.69 acres, is supposed to be enclosed with a conservation restriction. So we're trying to move that forward. We have, I'm not sure how much you've seen, but this is a plan that's of record. It shows the entire parcel, And what is called parcel B is actually the CR parcel, the enclosed with a restriction. The second plan I'd like to give you is a plan on site of the conservation restriction parcel itself, again parcel B. It shows the trail location on the property. Both of these documents will be recorded and referred to in the conservation restriction when it's finally approved and signed.
Copy of the first plan, so I can
Oh,
make
yeah,
sure
sure.
that I have that in file. I'm pretty sure that this one I have is not the
Right.
version, but it's extreme. Thank you very much.
What has happened, the conservation restriction was drafted, it's been reviewed twice by town council, and Pickett, she's had certain comments, I've made those changes to it, and emailed the last version to conservation administrator. The state has changed the application form for conservation restrictions effective as of May, so we've done the new version of the application form. I sent that off to the state to see if we completed it properly, and they said we have. That's just the application form itself, not the supportive data. I'd like to send a copy to your administrator on that as well. So our hope is to be able to move forward. What I'd like to be able to do, I know that there is one item missing, and that's a baseline report that the administrator is looking for from the project engineer, which I guess they're working on. I know that's the final element I think we need for the package to submit it formally to the state. What I'd like to do, and the state now wants us to send an unsigned copy to them first, so they can give comments. I'd like to be able to send that on to them, get any comments they have to the contents, so when it comes back before you and we ask for your approval and endorsement, we know the state has found it acceptable as the form. That's where we'd like to go from here. I want to at least share those thoughts with you, see if you have any other thoughts on your part, would like to keep the process going.
No.
Thank you very much.
Nobody has an issue with that?
No, when you send that in, if you copy, you have Judy Pickett's email, correct?
Sure.
And
Sure.
my email, so copy us on the submittal to the state.
Fair enough. Who's Judy with you now? Is she on her own or is she with?
She's with Tom Mullen.
Okay.
I have one question. With the baseline report, I was talking with Rich today. He had submitted a first version, and there was a little bit back and forth. Brent requested some other stuff, so there was supposed to be maybe a happy medium on the other things
No.
that
No.
was supposed to be added.
No,
There was supposed to be a meet in the middle.
no, that's not what happened.
Yeah, well, that was.
What happened was I provided him with the guidance from the state,
Yeah,
which we both acknowledge is the gold-plated, brick, mortared requirements for a CR. And I told Rich that I would work on getting something that I thought was possibly
yes.
more realistic, which I have procured a baseline report from Mass Audubon. In fact, I just received it today. I'm
Okay.
going to be
Okay.
sharing that with him, and then we'll have to
Yes, that's
go
what I was
over,
asking.
because again, there might be some nuances.
Was there any major changes or anything in that, John?
Well, it's kind I'm not saying this in a, to diminish, but the data that was initially supplied was a very minimalistic baseline report, and we really need something, especially one that's covering rare and endangered species habitat. We really need something that's got a little bit more substance to it, which was why I was trying to find something that was more representative of what type of data that we would like to see in a baseline report. The document needs to be an accurate reflection of the property, and it especially needs to be a good representation of the environmental and natural resources that are on the property that make it deserving of protection. So it needed to be fleshed out a little more. And I'm not sure what Mr. Williams' experience is with producing these. And so, again, this, we've been particularly busy right at the moment.
I realize
It's
that.
been hard to proportion my time to the various things, but we do, I believe, I've, again, procured a baseline report that can be more representative of what hopefully we'd be able to get produced for this particular parcel.
Now, this new thing from the state, you don't, is it taking longer, do you think, or?
Well, the fact that they now have staff that is actually reviewing it is
Oh,
a step in the right direction, whereas for approximately 6 to 8 months, the position wasn't filled. So we've seen better responsiveness and turnaround, and so
Do you see
Again, but
it
it-
going to the next
yeah.
meeting?
Well, what we're
I
going
would-
to be able to do. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I would actually hate to. I would hate to say that at this point in time.
Okay,
I
we'll
think
talk
it would
about
be,
that, yeah.
I think it would be better just to request an open continuance, that then when we get substantive data back, it can be placed on the agenda. Because we're dealing with now with other entities who we don't know what their workload is and what their turnaround is.
Yeah.
As well as I also believe that there's going to have to be some back and forth between Mr. Williams and myself looking at the Mass Audubon baseline report and pulling out pieces of that that are reflected, because every property is unique, and this happens to be the baseline report for the Brad Street Farm. So it's obviously got a little more stuff in it, being a coastal resource area with salt marsh or whatever. But again, I think it's a good representative of what the type of selection of data that should be represented.
No, is this slowing you down, John?
No, I just want to make sure, you know, that
No, he's being responsive to our
we've been
pointing out that the permit for his property did.
we've been at this for a long time, and I really wish we were following along, and we are, but,
Yeah, okay.
you know. So I know, I talked to Rich today, and he's anxious to get this middle ground so we can finish,
Yep.
you know, because I don't want this to hold me up in September or somewhere
Right
down
around
the
the
road,
corner, yeah.
you know. So,
All right, so we'll leave this as an open?
That's fine. Is it in a Word form? You know what form that Audubon report was? Was it a
So I got
scan?
it in a PDF today, so it's 44 megabytes.
Can you send it to me as well?
Yep.
That way I can tip people who get it done, okay? Thank you.
Certainly can. It's just a little bit of a big attachment, so.
Yeah, I
So
did want to
you
give
might
you a comment.
I might have to put it in Dropbox and send you a link to it or whatever.
Okay, that's good.
To facilitate the transfer.
Okay, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, thank you.
Well, if we could have
You wanna
a
vote on it?
motion with, they've given permission for an open continuance on the CR, so if we could just have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
And if I understand the consensus was I can go ahead and send the draft on to the state to at least
Yes.
start that? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We can get a response from that.
Thank you. Thank you for your
They
time.
have also sometimes, also, as soon as we presented it with the signatures on it, still come back to us and requested some slight changes, so. So it's a flexible process with them.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Take care.
All right, this is a legal notice of the Raleigh Conservation Commission in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw. A public meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 19th, 7:45, Town Hall Annex at 39 Central Street to consider a request for determination of applicability for the application filed by Martha Chase Geary for the soil testing evaluation of subsurface sewage disposal system design possibly within a 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands at 563 Weathersfield Street, map 11, parcel lot 59, Rowley.
Thank you, Mr.
You have
Chairman.
the floor.
Members of the commission, for the record, Robert Blanchett, civil engineer, ConCom engineering, Amesbury, representing the applicant, Mark Aguirre, in the matter of a request for determination of applicability for soil testing proposed on her parcel at 563 Weathersfield Street. Brent, I have for the record, I have the revised drawings that depict the approximate location of the man-made pond as discussed during our site walk, and I was able to visually confirm that there is a culvert under this land bridge here, and spoke to the homeowner, and they confirmed that yes, there is a culvert there.
Okay, great.
So it's shown in just an approximate way as discussed. So the parcel is located on the north side of Weathersfield Street. Address is 563 Weathersfield Street. It's a single-family home. Recently, the homeowner had a Title V inspection done. Existing system failed the inspection, so they need a repair. ConCom Engineering has performed an existing condition survey. Norris Environmental Services delineated the border and vegetated wetlands on site. So the results of our survey and Norris's delineations are depicted on this plan. The light green shaded area represents the bordering vegetated wetland. The darker green area here is forest. This is what appears to be a man-made pond. The tan rectangles are the homes, and this gray shaded area is the driveway. Of course, associated with the bordering vegetated wetland is a buffer zone. That's this pink line here. So you can see our choices are limited to where we can test. We've selected 3 areas to test. The primary area is here for 2 reasons. 1, it's outside the buffer zone. 2, the existing septic tank is right about here, and leach field is here. So it makes sense to maintain that continuity of flow and hopefully gets the passing test in this area here. Alternatively, we're going to test, if this doesn't work, we'll test here. This is a horse paddock. It's all disturbed, it's lawn, it's been maintained that way for quite some time. And our last option is here. Again, it's this isn't a paddock over here, but it is lawn. So what we're asking for the commission to do is make a determination as to whether they feel like work proposed poses a positive impact. I would like to add, though, we expect to have 1 day worth of testing, and at the end of the day, all the test pits will be filled in, brought back to grade, covered with straw or hay, and reseeded so they can, the area can be revegetated.
It's fairly level.
It is fairly level. It is.
All right.
What will determine which of the 3 areas that you ultimately prefer?
Well, we're going to start here. If we get a passing perk and a passing soil test, then we're done.
Okay.
If, of course, this doesn't work, then we'll move here, and if this doesn't work, we'll move there, and if none of them work, well, we'll have to go back to the proverbial drafting board and try to figure out where to go next. Because at the end of the day, the home needs a functioning on-site wastewater treatment system.
Do you anticipate getting the results of those tests in the same day?
Yes. Yes.
At this point, turn it over to Rick.
So I've prepared a memo for the commission. I do want to note one thing that isn't expressed in the memo, just to, because I believe the commission will be familiar with this. On the other side of Weathersfield Street, not quite exactly opposite the driveway entrance to this property, is 458, Mr. Herrick Lucia Trust property, where we have the farm crossing and the Mill River. So even this plan isn't meant to depict all jurisdictional wetland resource areas. There is the possibility that the 200-foot riverfront area may possibly extend across Weathersfield Street and into the front yard area, but there's no proposed activities contemplated in this effort, and so therefore we didn't bother to investigate the particular delineation as to where the boundary of the 200 riverfront might occur. But I just wanted to mention that. So the proposed conditions here are drafted as such to not have the requirement for any installation of erosion control based on the ability to backfill on fairly level ground on the same day. And so these are our typical conditions for having work occur in jurisdiction with the requirement for a spill containment kit to meet the gallonage size of any equipment that's present. And conditioning that the areas be backfilled and appropriately stabilized after the disturbance. And then we'll just have to see what develops in terms of whether they need to come back before us for activity in a regulated area, or whether their first attempt at soil evaluations yields pay dirt and will therefore be outside of our regulated areas.
I've got another question. Have you considered, if the first site fails, moving up to where those two buffer zone areas in front of the south side of the barn, which would be further away from the wetlands on either side than the other two proposed?
You're referring to this
Somewhere
area?
in there, yeah.
We can certainly consider that.
I would think that would be a preferred second choice, even though you technically impact two buffer zones, but it's further away than either of the other ones.
Okay. So make this the second alternative if this doesn't work, and then that, of course, would be the third. And then this is, if all else fails, this is it here. Okay. Yeah, that's
Probably all sand up there anyways, isn't it?
honestly, I don't know. I saw some disturbance over here when the system was inspected. You know, the inspector uncovers the tank and turns the dirt over, and lots of rocks, a lot of silt. So I don't know if it's just fill material that was brought in, or if that's representative of the native soil.
All right. Do I hear a motion for a negative determination? Option number 3, including special conditions that Brent has noted above. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Request for signatures.
If I may ask a question.
Sure.
Procedurally, how soon can we test? I ask because I have a testing date for next Wednesday to be on site. Is that too soon?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Excellent. Thank you.
Not at all.
This is a legal notice, Raleigh Conservation Commission, in accordance with the Wetland Protection Act, Mass General Law 131, Section 40, as amended by the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw. The public meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 19th, 8 p.m., Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, to consider a request for determination of applicability for the application filed by John Ray Grover for the proposed installation of a pre-manufactured 12 by 16 wooden shed in the backyard lawn area, possibly within 100 feet, with bordering vegetated wetlands at 140 Weathersfield Street, map 17, parcel lot 16 in Raleigh, Mass. You've got the floor.
Take it away.
Not that bad.
No, just describe what your project is.
Okay. The we want to put up a 12 by 16 shed. It'll be built there. It's in front of the wood pile. I guess it's less than 100 feet from the stone wall. But that's what we want to do.
Okay, yep, you penciled it in here, yep. All right.
We've positioned it 25 feet away from the finger area of wetlands that crosses basically in midsection of their property. That has they have a detached barn structure which is in the woods on the other side of this projection or narrow peninsula of wetlands. There's a footpath or dirt road crossing that has a culvert connection. And so this is in a maintained lawn area. And he did invite me to the property, and I expressed the commission's guidance for usually a 25-foot offset. It's all vegetated around it. It's a pre-manufactured shed. So I believe the only thing that's going to occur is it's going to be leveled and put on supports on the ground. So I don't anticipate that there will be a lot of excavation or anything. So the conditions are phrased with the precautionary fact that if erosion control, if there's some unanticipated earth disturbance or digging, then erosion control is required. But I foresee the fact that there actually shouldn't be any need for that, that they are probably just going to back up with their inclined, put it down, lift it up, level it off, provide the proper blocks in the corners or center or however they do it, and that'd be it. So then they're going to have instant shed. And they'll put up their neon flashing sign.
Sounds like it'd be nice. All right, anybody have any questions on this? It seems pretty cut and dry. Anything you'd like? How about, is anybody going to make a motion for negative determination, option number 3, incorporating the conditions as noted by Brent?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Circulate that for I'll provide that to you. Did you get a copy of my memo?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Right here.
very good. I can mail that to you, or I can call you, and you can come and pick it up, or you're in and out on a regular basis, just check with me.
Sure.
Like 2 days or so.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you very much, Vernon.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Gentlemen. And Judy.
You're like way too quick on that one.
Well, let's see if I get nice. I wish everything was that calm.
Well, what I would like to suggest, so the next agenda item, which is focused on 395 Main Street, there is actually an outstanding expired order of conditions that is a certificate of compliance. So administratively, that is an item that isn't advertised at any particular time. This might be an opportune moment to consider that and get
We're
that.
getting a little ahead, yeah, okay. Why don't we do that? Good idea.
If you located that on the agenda, you could.
Which one is that? Bottom? Certificate of compliance? Or for, okay. we're going to, because we're getting ahead of ourselves on the time, we have a new certificate of compliance request, DEP number 63-0031 at 395 Main Street, map 27, parcel 53, lots 2A, 2B, Brian Scarlett of Dydex Corporation. Go ahead.
I'm Adam Mashonda from Mashonda and Associates, and as Brent just said, there's an outstanding order of conditions for 395 Main Street from 1982. And there were, I think, let's see, there were 7 conditions, and we were asked to go through and settle the order of conditions and make a request for a certificate of compliance. So that's what we did, and there were a few issues, a few conditions. One is that the drainage system was not shown on the plan for the order of conditions, and as you can see, my office, we went out and we as-built the drainage that was proposed out there. I also have the proposed plan for me now from the order of conditions, and it was as-built. I personally went out there and walked the site and walked the drainage in. Brent did make some comments that some of the head walls, you know, were in need of some repair, which would be expected since it was constructed 35 plus years ago. But it appears that everything is constructed in terms of the drainage system as proposed. Some of the things that were, another condition was there's a minimum request of 3 feet wide by 1 foot deep of crushed stone used off the side of the building to control runoff. And on the plan, actually I'll show it here. On the plan here, it shows it on each side of the building here, there was crushed stone that actually wasn't placed. There's none on the front or the back, but it's because the building is, you know, sloped to each its peak, so it wouldn't be necessary in the front and the back. And it says there was condition 3, that there was considerable erosion on the bankings off the driveway. It was, you know, when this was probably walked or whatever.
It's not there now.
Yeah, I mean, it's well established now. I mean, there's grasses and it's well established, so there's no erosion control issues at this point. It says the runoff towards 1A, it says that it's recommended that they reached out to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm not sure if that was done in terms of that condition.
And technically that was a condition that the commission had no ability to.
Yeah, it's just a recommendation or whatever, so. And then we had, let's see here, the berm. It did speak of a berm, which there was, you know, a bit conch curbing was, you know, put in place here. It's shown on the, it was located as a field survey, so you can see it on the plan here. So that was all in place as a condition. And the septic system, the grading around the septic system, which, you know, this is the approximate location. It's all a grass area, and actually this drive here, there were 2 conditions that weren't done. One is, well, done differently, I guess. This area up here, after the berm, was called for it to be a gravel drive. On the plan, it's actually a bit conch, they paved it. This here is very flat, as you can see the grading, and it's all grass and well established at this point. So there's no erosion controls or any issues in terms of the grading over the septic system. And the other condition that wasn't done, the last one, was they called for a pond to be placed.
I don't think the commission required that. I think the applicant at the time, Mr. Kent, had aspirations of possibly putting that in as a water feature type thing, and probably because it was an aesthetic landscape thing, they probably just never.
Yeah, so I walked it, it's just a wetland, so it's supposed to be at the end of the ditch here, so, you know, as you can see, I called up the plan as a wetland area. So that's basically the conditions that were in place. So like I said, all of them were basically satisfied, except for two of them. One of them it was just became paved instead of a gravel drive, and the pond was, I guess the biggest thing was part of the drainage.
Also, more than likely, it's an area outside the commission's jurisdiction of a 100-foot buffer zone, so it's, again, not quite exactly sure why. But anyway, this is what happens when you try to go back to 1982 and try to deal with something, and may not have realized this, but this also was in the very early days of DEQE and conservation commissions in the local community implementing the Wetlands Protection Act. Because it turns out that the order was actually issued before it even had a file number.
Okay.
So, which, you know, today is not something that can occur or could occur. It also, we were unable to ascertain that it was ever recorded, and so therefore we requested Attorney Smolak, representing Didex, to record it so that we could accomplish closure tonight.
So this would be, basically, we're just accomplishing a closure.
Exactly. But, I mean, the good news is, again, the reason the drainage was kind of an issue was the fact that apparently when the commission actually issued this, they did not have a drainage plan. It hadn't been worked up and submitted, so there were, not only was the cart before the horse, but I think the mule behind the cart was in front of the horse and the carriage at the same time here, so there was a whole bunch of things that today you would not see that type of progression in development and proposed development for a property. But anyway, so we're pulling everything together. We now have a representative plan that can go in the file that actually provides documentation as to where those drainage outlets are. So again, finding those areas and giving them the appropriate attention if the site probably needs some upgrading to its drainage infrastructure. That can all be accomplished without a bunch of hunting around, and also we can accomplish, we've accomplished recordation of the order as was supposed to happen, and now I recommend to the commission that you consider the issuance of a complete certificate of compliance. There's no ongoing conditions to be considered with this.
Do I hear such a motion? Well, let me make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Very much.
We have plenty of seats down front if you want.
That's okay.
That's the security officer's station, so if you could please move up here.
Absolutely.
I want to keep you out of the oranges too, we know what's going to happen.
I was gonna take one. Excuse me.
Okay, so a little closer.
Legal notice, the Raleigh Conservation Commission, in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law 131, Section 40, as amended, and the Town of Riley Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Public hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 19th, 2018 at 8:15. I'm making up over here. Town Hall Annex at 39 Central Street to consider an abbreviated notice of research area delineation application filed by Brian Scarlett for Didex Corporation to identify wetland resource areas at 395 Main Street, map 27, parcel 52, lot B, owned by Didex Corporation, 425 Main Street, map 27, parcel lot 48, Whitcomb Spring, map 27, parcel lot 79, Riley's Bridge, map 27, parcel lot 80, and Whitcomb's Creek, map 27, parcel lot 81, owned by J&R Realty Trust, Raleigh, Mass. Again, you have the floor.
Right, thank you. So, as you just said, we're filing in ANRAD, and actually Brent walked, I guess, I'm not gonna say majority, he walked some of the wetlands, I guess, with Jack Vaccaro from Epsilon, who's the wetland scientist. And they're the ones obviously that flagged the site. And, you know, Brent stated in his email that he felt pretty confident in terms of where the location of the flags were. I did get your latest email. And in terms of number 6, the one about the ACEC having a buffer, a local bylaw of 100 feet,
Right.
we did, I'm not sure, what we ended up doing in terms of creating the 100-foot buffers, we did the most upgraded and what would be the most conservative. So an example like here where you have, you know, the bordering vegetated wetlands, I'm not sure exactly what line you said it was VA or whatever, but, you know, here we actually offset this, because if we actually offset the ACEC, it'd actually be, it's actually the most conservative, if you know what I'm saying. So we did take that into consideration, we did know.
Right, but I'm,
Yeah.
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please.
But the point is that there is another buffer zone, and under local resource areas, there should at least be a note that expresses that. I understand your depiction, and I understand the strategy of depicting the reach of any regulated area that is more up gradient of a layer cake of various resource areas, especially where you have something that's kind of arbitrary as the ACEC is.
Okay.
I'm just saying that it still is a regulated area, and sometimes you can never tell how it's going to play out. Yes, with your plan, we're very fortunate that we've got freshwater bordering vegetated wetlands that is all up gradient, up elevation of where the ACEC is established, but that isn't always the case on undulating coastal terrain that may or may not have a lot of topography to express it. So it's, again, it wasn't meant as a criticism, it was just meant as a piece of information that I thought should be possibly put on the plan with the other suggested changes to the plan. It's just kind of like saying, okay, that's there. I wasn't saying you needed to depict it, but I'm just saying, you know, to kind of express it. We have a lot, and it's sort of the same thing, like we have some properties that would be entirely within our zone too, and our wetlands bylaw says that is a regulated resource area. So we just ask for a plan note that says, that makes the statement that that area is there, not necessarily that we're looking for it to all be checkered or shaded or hatched or something.
Okay, sure.
It's just a statement of, okay, there's that regulated area is here, and it might have to be dealt with, but yes, there's you have a multiple resource-rich area.
There's a lot of resources in there, so. Are there any questions regarding?
Anybody on the board have any questions on this? At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Brent for.
I have one question, but very brief. This is 4 lots put together? Is that my understanding from that?
Yes, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess technically 5.
Well, actually, they excluded that.
Excluded this, so 4.
Yeah.
4 is correct.
And this particular lot was extremely challenging. It has an area that comes down and provides some frontage, but there really wasn't any access short of wading through there And
That was gonna be my question.
and we kind of made a judgment, I made a judgment call that we anticipated that we've heard speculation that development activity is going to be focused into this area. So we looked at all the resource areas that we're going to be throwing and providing a regulated footprint there that one might want to be able to do their engineering and their design for development, taking that into account. It was, Jack and I actually discussed this, that the extent of filling that would have to be done there, as well as that river crossing and everything else would just, I mean, again, given Bill Gates with a huge checkbook or whatever, maybe you could possibly figure out something to do there, but it didn't seem like it was going to be realistic. And if there is an application that proposes some activity, we'll go visit those areas. We're not saying that those resource areas aren't there, we're just not confirming the exact delineation because we haven't checked that out in the field.
Yeah, there was some greenhouses or something down there on that area. Yeah.
This one here.
Tom Woods said, remember?
Yeah, not,
On that little narrow?
Yeah. It was an access to something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where would the proposed access to the developed area be from?
Yeah.
Access and egress
Well,
contemplated.
I'm not really sure yet, because everything's kind of, you know, just speculating at this point, but it would be, I think it'd be coming in here, down this drive there, it'd probably extend through here.
From the existing driveway from the lot,
Yeah,
just
from
exclude.
this one here.
Yeah.
What I believe would be the game plan.
Is that developed area tied into the railroad parking lot at all?
No, that's back here, right? What?
No, this is the commuter parking lot right here.
Yeah.
So
So it's cut out
theoretically,
there, the lot.
theoretically, you could do an access through there.
that's not public road.
From what I know so far, just kind of what they've been kicking around, very preliminary, it's just basically, this is, I don't even think anyone has even discussed possibly coming into there. They could definitely be,
The only thing I heard was about the possibility of pedestrian access
yeah.
that would allow them to go to the commuter rail from whatever gets proposed in there, but that's all that I heard was contemplated. I didn't hear anything about any vehicle type of access.
All right, what else?
Well, there's some suggestions mainly for just trying to improve the plan, and the first largest concern I had was that the use of very indistinct light blue shading for the focus on the BBW delineation, I thought was exactly the wrong strategy to adopt with this. I thought that, you know, where that's the most prominent resource area that we were reviewing, and that then projects its 100-foot regulated buffer zone into the area that more than likely will see some focus of attention for possible development, then in fact that should be a darker, more prominent color, because it's very hard to see on this plan.
That's our primary focus.
Right. I mean, and the symbology that was used in here seems to fluctuate back and forth. There's some lines that were projected to be like a long dash and then some short ones, but they seem to vary from one end of the line to the other. They'd go to different sequences of where they were broken. So in general, there just needed to be some uniformity of attention, especially devoted to the legend, correctly expressing and writing out the full names of the resource areas, and then adopting a strategy of using a symbology that made sense and that would also be prominent and easily discerned by looking at here. You know, you can use dashed lines that are interspersed with a dot. You can use entirely uniform dashed lines. You can then use lines that have a long dash, two short dashes, and a dot. I mean, there's all sorts of prominent symbology that could be used that would make the various resource areas much more easily discernible and provide a better presentation throughout the plan. I also found it kind of funny that Sand Creek, which is prominently mentioned in the report, is not identified at all in this plan. And also I made the suggestion that that be corrected, that Sand Creek be identified, direction of flow of Sand Creek should be indicated, because that's a fairly prominent water course. It crosses Main Street and enters the properties over here and then goes all the way over to the upper left-hand corner, and it's projecting 200-foot riverfront throughout there. Now, not sure that that regulated area would ever be reached, because you have to go through a whole bunch of BVW and then salt marsh and everything to get anywhere near that course, as well as I was also concerned to see the 100-year floodplain be used as the statement of the resource area, when in fact what we're doing, what we're depicting here is the special flood hazard area, AE, where the elevation is determined, which I believe is elevation 10, and that is land subject to coastal storm flowage in the ACEC, and that terminology, that verbiage is nowhere on that plan, but that's the regulated area that we should be talking about and expressed.
Especially of interest in these times of rising sea levels, which some people don't believe in, but is in fact.
But they do have the largest dike in Massachusetts between the,
A railroad cross.
that's, well, it's high.
Yes.
It's very high. Yeah, no, this, that, Brent makes sense with that, and I like that because I can't, looking at that, you know, I mean, we would. Brent, can you have that corrected and brought back to Brent in that way, shape, and form within 14 days?
Sure, I can work with Brent and
Yeah.
we can get it to help.
Yeah, it would be easier.
I can meet with them, yeah, sure.
What other concerns did you have immediately on this?
Oh, well, that was pretty much it. I mean, I actually, you know, I don't know if I specifically expressed it to Jack, but I was very complimentary in regards to the delineation on this site was not easy. Particularly checking it was actually quite hard, because there was this whole camouflage layer of cinnamon ferns and stuff there, and it was really hard to, in some cases I'd go to Jack, and what exactly did you see here? He's like, well, at the time of year I was here, there wasn't this, and okay, we'd paw around underneath the ferns and we'd find various obligate wetland species there and stuff like, okay, I know why you placed the flagging here, okay.
Could you point out the H flagging area where you actually couldn't get into because of the...
Oh, that's this little area here. We actually went over into the commuter rail lot and tried to look down through their chain link fence, but that's sort of invasive species heaven. And you can see from the pictures in the report that they had the luxury of being out there in late winter, early spring, I think, looking at it, where there wasn't any greenery involved, and they could just go right to the areas and check it out. Yeah, but it's all sorts of multiflora rose and bittersweet. We have no doubt that it's there. We could definitely see that the terrain is all focusing down to a little spot.
Anybody else have any questions on the board or the audience? All right, so should we schedule this for the next meeting? How do you want us to handle this?
Well, no,
I've got a suggestion here. If I may
The-
read
the
suggested motion.
Yeah, the suggested motion is that the commission could consider the issuance of an order of resource area delineation as requested, confirming the reviewed flagged resource lines after the plans have been revised and accepted by the RCC staff within 14 days.
I will move that.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, you'll be working on that.
I'll be in contact with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you too.
So maybe now would be a good time. So we have an announcement to make. If there's anyone here in the audience who has come here for the notice of intent for 430 Weathersfield Street or the stormwater management permit for 430 Weathersfield Street, those two agenda items were 8:30 and 8:45. Due to unforeseen circumstances and incomplete nature of the application, those items are not going to be opened or heard or discussed this evening. So if there's anyone here for 430 Weathersfield Street, we're sorry to disappoint, but circumstances beyond our control, beyond the applicant's control, have negated us being able to open those items for this evening.
Well, it was scheduled for 9:30 and 9:45.
No,
No,
430
that was,
Weathersfield
it
Street.
was the next two we had, that's why we were jumping.
All right.
So we're still early for a big seller here.
Well, but those are continued, so it's the board and a lot of folks that had contacted the office, we sent out notification about the fact that those items would be considered early.
All right, so, now, are we gonna, did they ask for a continuance on your memo for the 8:30 and the 8:45?
Well, again, we aren't opening them,
Right.
so they
But for the next
can't
meeting.
be continued. We're going to re-advertise,
Okay.
re-notice the butters, and that's if the applications are rendered to a state of completeness
Right.
for us to be able to consider moving forward in the process. So we do have 50 Newberry Road.
Right.
I don't know if any of those folks are here tonight or not.
50 Newbury Road, is anybody here on this one? Should we want to do that?
How about we do the two other certificate of compliance requests that we have?
Make sure we do that.
I had no indications that there was going to be anyone in attendance because there aren't any complications in regard to those. Let me just gather my paperwork together here. And I guess the next one would be 27 Wilson Pond Road, if you want.
I will read that right from here. What we have here under certificate of compliance request, we have a new certificate of compliance request. DEP number 63-0094, amended November 1993, 27 Wilson Pond Lane, map 6, parcel 41, lot 27, Antonio and Sharon Petici.
So for the commission's edification, this is a property owner who, through no fault of their own, had a title search done, which apparently didn't come back to them until just a couple of days before their anticipated closing on the property, whereupon it was discovered that the order of conditions for the Wilson Pond Lane project, Phase 1, and there's also another order, Phase 2, either one of those had been appropriately retired. Doing some research on this, so 63-0094. So the remedy that's proposed for the Commission's consideration tonight is to issue a partial certificate of compliance. This is the third instance that I'm aware of, and so being the third instance and not wishing to see this play itself out again and again with other property owners, I have started in-depth research into figuring out figuring out whether there's an ability to actually close the order of conditions that resulted in the construction of what exists today as Wilson Pond Lane with its associated lots. The town accepted the road in, I think, 1995, but for some reason, I don't know what was going on, but the commission never seemed to weigh in or be asked to consider closing the order. So I'm going to try and accomplish the appropriate research and be able to come back to the commission so that we can take the appropriate course of action to deal with that, so other property owners won't have their real estate transactions interrupted and need to come for partial certificates of compliance. This particular lot does not have any, other than the frontage on the roadway, doesn't have any drainage infrastructure, and it also doesn't appear to have any jurisdictional wetland resource areas on it at the time that Wilson Pond Lane was constructed. Since that time, though, there was a stormwater basin constructed on the opposite side of the street from this property, which I'm not sure, again, have to check into the engineering. I'm not sure it was designed to be a wet pond. It is now a wet pond, and it's entirely possible that it is throwing, I don't know if you folks saw the picture of the Mallard family that I distributed around. They were utilizing the embankment of that pond as the little nesting snoozing area. So anyway,
Because of beaver activity has caused that pond.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry?
Because beaver activity has caused that pond to be there. It's also
Oh,
flooded.
no, this is a constructed stormwater pond. It is nowhere near Wilson Pond itself.
Not beaver adjacent.
No. In fact, more than likely, it's the result of an isolated vegetated wetland area that's between Leslie Road, Wilson Pond, and Ellsworth Lane, I believe, or Ellsworth Road, I'm not sure which it's called. And because it wasn't jurisdictional, they were able to construct this pond right at the down gradient end, where this isolated vegetated wetland, when it seasonally fills with water, it then overtops and goes into this constructed pond. So that's, I think it was supposed to be an infiltration pond, but I don't believe it accomplishes any infiltration now, because I believe it's basically been...
And I think that's why the highway tried to put in that,
Yeah.
so I got involved with that.
So anyway, the
All right.
recommendation for the commission is to consider issuance of a partial certificate of compliance so we can remove the impediment to this particular real estate transaction that has caused them not to have an entirely clear.
Do I hear such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Figure out flooding.
Yes, it's all road. All right, the next item, we're taking advantage of this, is a new certificate of compliance request, DEP 63-0337 at 25 School Street, map 24, parcel lot 123. That's Kent Irrevocable Trust. And I'll turn it immediately over to Brent for I read this.
So the situation is, again, have a property that is potentially going to be sold and purchased, but a little more lead time before the real estate transaction can occur. And it was discovered that there was an open order of conditions for the construction of a replacement septic system that occurred in, here, 2001. So it's actually a short distance down the street here, so I obtained all the records from the health department's files to confirm that in fact the system had been put in appropriately, and in fact that it is also the type of system that needs an annual maintenance inspection or whatever, because it utilizes a blower system. It's called a FAST system, F-A-S-T, and apparently there's a blower system that moves oxygen down into the field to supposedly provide oxygen to the bacteria and the little detritivores and then breaking up of the sewage sludge in an expedited fashion. So it's sort of a turbocharged oxygen.
All right, anybody have any questions on this?
So the recommendation is for the commission to consider the issuance of a complete certificate of compliance.
Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
One time to get an air conditioning one, we can't turn it on.
Turn it on. Go ahead.
It'll be on for concert. Okay.
Well, how about that one?
Does that one work?
That's the
That one-
furthest from the mic.
Yeah.
Oh.
So for the seniors, they have a small
Talk loud.
Okay. Like that.
I think it appears I do not see the applicants or representatives for 50 Newberry Road, so I think everyone present may possibly be here for 623 Weathersfield Street.
Okay. Would you people like us to go right to, that would be our 9:30 item?
9:30 and 9:45. So
Right.
both the notice of intent and the stormwater management.
You people feel, enough people are here to? Okay. All right, do I have?
You can just read, yeah, it's continued item, so you can read it.
We're going out of order. If anybody has a problem or anything with it, we will go back to order, but I want to get everybody out as soon as we can. This is a 9:30 item. It's a continued notice of intent application, DEP number 63-0669, at land off Weathersfield Street, map 11, parcel 58, 599, 607, 615, 623, Weathersfield Street, map 11, parcel lots 53, 58-1, 58-2, 58-2A, Rowley Solar LLC, Marvin Revocable Trust, proposed construction for a 4.18 acre solar photovoltaic system, gravel access drive, stormwater facilities, utilities, associated grading within a 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands and isolated vegetated wetlands. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Robert Blanchett, Civil Engineer, Cameron Engineering, Inc., representing the applicant, David Revocable Trust, on the matter of notice of intent for work proposed on the north side of Weathersfield Street, including all the parcels mentioned in the description. The last design that the applicant had presented to this commission.
No, the commission, well, you can read into the record after he gets done his presentation, the communication from Attorney Beatrice. I defer to the chair.
You want to do that or first? First? Okay, let me read some communication that we have from Attorney Beatrice. Is this loud enough? This was sent, Tom Beatrice, Monday, June 18th. Hi, Brent. As you know, I represent Rowley Solar LLC, the Marvin Revocable Trust, with respect to a pending application before the Commission seeking orders of condition. Please be advised the applicants respectfully request additional time to pay the applicable bylaw fee in a full based on the revised plan. Pay in full on the revised plan. My client's intent is to pay the fee prior to the issuance of an order of conditions. Should the Commission vote to issue one and in the interim resolve all ongoing issues before the Planning Board. The next Planning Board meeting is scheduled for July 18. Hopefully my client's request will be agreeable with the Commission and allow Mr. Blanchett an opportunity to update the Commission and the public as to the most recent revised plans. Thank you, Tom Beatrice. Any more discussion? Any of this at this time?
Oh, yeah, no, this is open and ongoing. This is the result of revisions. We're on revision plan set H.
H. Let me turn it back to you at this point. Unless there's any questions or anything from the floor, the audience, or any of the other commissioners. Go ahead.
The last design that the applicant had presented to this commission was Rev.E. dated January 23rd, 2018.
Yep.
Since that time, we've been working with the planning board, planning board's preview engineer, developing a few more iterations. So the most recent is Rev H, which is presented here. I have 2 copies of this color plan for the record, for the grant. This design was presented to the planning board, and we're here to present it to the board. The previous design, if you don't recall, it looked like I have a reduced copy version of it. I'll discuss the changes between the last design we saw and this current design. So as you can see for Rev E, we had panels through here, close to Woodsfield Street. We've since removed them and moved them back in this area. The gravel access driveway was positioned approximately here. We've since moved it 140 feet east along Woodsfield Street to this location. In that, of course, we've updated our fee worksheet, our fee worksheet, and presented copies correctly. Increased, not that it's within the commission's purview, but we've increased the distance from property lines and from homes to the area. And have updated the limit of clearing, which is represented by this dark green line, which represents the remaining forest after the facility is installed. So as with the other designs, we have a stormwater management system designed in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act and the Stormwater Management Standards by reference to the Act. Those calculations have been provided to the board, and that's clearly engineered and included within the second flow. In addition to that, during our site walk with Brent last week, he had indicated that the commission more likely be looking for a vegetation management, which we have prepared. It's currently with the applicant, they're reviewing it. As soon as it's available, we'll present it to the commission.
All right, now, before we get into the audience stuff, the questions is, we rehearsed before, to only do with conservation. You know, not
Yes,
just, okay. So at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Brent, because Brent's had the ability to go out there, take a look at it, and he can actually show me and the rest of our crew here where the boundaries and the affected areas are under our jurisdiction. That's all we can do.
Okay. Before I do that, though, I'd like to mention that Mr. Blanchett and I sat down on May 30th, I think it was, and brought the plans in. And I did a cursory review or initial review of the set of plans whose layout and configuration I hadn't seen before. And I just wanted to go over some of the recommendations that I discussed with Mr. Blanchett that I believe needed to be addressed on the plan sheets. As far as I know, no revisions reacted to these or new information has been submitted to the Conservation Office, but just for edification, I wanted to go through this. So I requested that the limit of clearing be labeled on all relevant sheets. I also requested that the 100-foot buffer zone be labeled clearly on all relevant sheets. I requested a revision to the construction sequence to reflect the Commission's protocol now, where we review and inspect the limit of clearing prior to allowing any tree cutting or clearing to occur on the property for any project. And at the same time, we also review the location, the proposed location for erosion control measures to be put in place after the tree cutting has occurred. That way we pick up any areas that may not have been initially proposed to have erosion control installed. It allows better ground truthing of the topography and some of the construction activities. I suggested considering a relocation of where they had proposed to install erosion control measures, suggesting that they be pulled back to the fence line because they were initially put along the edge of clearing and only tree cutting is proposed for some of the areas, no earth disturbing or stumping activities, and therefore that was going to result in more deployed erosion control that might not necessarily be effective in regards to it not being near where the actual earth disturbance was occurring. And I requested a clarification of where the plans depicted check dams as to whether some were temporary and some were permanent. That wasn't clearly depicted on the plans. As Mr. Blanchett mentioned, I've requested, and this request has been, I believe, reiterated from the first of this project, the fact that a vegetation management plan needed to be developed and submitted to the commission because it was anticipated that vegetation would need to be managed outside of the fence perimeter for the panels due to the fact of mature woody vegetation in the canopy throwing shadows onto proposed panel locations. And then finally, I wanted inclusion of inspection regimen for the basins, possibly using markers to indicate when accumulated silt had gotten to a level that they needed to be have some attention devoted to them. In other words, it's a marker or a gauge.
Yeah. We've been doing more.
Okay, so I just wanted to go over those things.
Yeah.
So in regards to Chairman's request for where jurisdictional areas occur, this project is now some work for clearing and truding in. Starting at the driveway entrance, there's the bordering vegetated wetland system to the east on frontage of Weathersfield Street, and the 100-foot buffer zone extends into where the driveway access is, and approximately a third of the proposed stormwater basin. Going further into the site, there's an isolated vegetated wetlands area that has no inlet or outlet. Part of the grading for the access road, I believe it's fill.
Is that vernal in?
No, it's not. But it is an isolated vegetated wetland area. And so it does have a 100-foot jurisdictional buffer zone and some of the fill for the driveway access that is there. Moving on up to where we have a T going into one of the fields of the panels, and we then have some stormwater facilities as the access drive is heading in a roughly northeasterly direction. There's a 100-foot buffer zone from this vegetated wetland area that comes into the area. I think 3/4 of the stormwater facilities and some of the access drive as it swings a corner rounding the northwest corner of Mr. Cassiotis' property. So then that moves on up. Buffer zone for that. So as that access drive that's going towards the east swings a gradual French curve heading over to the east, there is another stormwater area, and there's a projection of the 100-foot buffer zone that includes all of the stormwater area, a little bit of the driveway access road right in that area on the plan. And then finally, just to continue moving in an easterly direction, we have proposed clearing to prevent shading of the panels that extends all the way up to this area on the plan, which is the most northerly and easterly extent of the proposed development. Then dropping down just to the lower southeasterly quarter of this property, there's, I believe, an isolated vegetated wetland system, most prominently on Mr. Cassiotis' property, but it extends a little bit onto the Maven Revocable Trust property. And there's a stormwater management berm constructed here, and also clearing that is going to extend. It still respects the 25-foot no cut, no disturbance zone. I guess I should have mentioned that. All proposed work that's within the 100-foot buffer zone all stops and respects the 25-foot no cut, no disturbance area. Going over into the field of panels to the northwest, again, there's proposed clearing
almost entirely on the easterly side of those panels and also on the westerly side that extends a little bit into the 100-foot buffer zone. But again, the 25-foot no cut, no disturb is respected in all cases.
So that's why I look forward to having a submittal of the vegetation management plan and reviewing that, since that activity is going to need to be governed and also considered in a perpetual basis, or at least in perpetuity for the 20 to 30-year lifespan of the solar facility.
Go ahead, Kurt, you had something?
Northeast corner there, those two circles, those topping knolls there,
Correct.
taking them down about 2 feet.
The existing elevation is about 72, and we're proposing an elevation of 69, so 3 feet.
That's a little different from there, but that's all right. Have you? Right.
Existing.
Right. Have you checked to see whether there's ledge under there?
We
Any
have,
testing for
I
that?
know we have some older soil testing in this area, and we're going to test it in this area, and some testing over here, and how the test bits resulted in the ledge. We dug at that point, we dug anywhere from, this is old, this is starting way back, I think 2008, I believe. The test bits were anywhere from 8 to 10 feet.
Did those on those old areas?
I have to check the records again. I don't know that we did any here. I believe there was some here.
I just asked
Some
because
there.
years ago I walked the property with a guy to another application,
Okay.
and it's glacial hill valley.
It is.
You know, wetlands, and it has to be rocks and ledge, but, you know.
Oh, yeah.
but-
Well, there's an extensive boulder field that's actually has been depicted right from day one off of the northernmost corner of this.
Does it natural field or clear at that point?
It appears to be natural. I don't appear to be placed there, but
This thing like,
Some giant left their little marbles.
drive some rods down there.
Yeah.
Check.
well, we received comments from the planning board's peer review engineer, and we've always known that we're going to have to do this. We're going to revisit the site. We have one test pit in each basin for now, just to validate the calculations. The requirements call for a minimum of 3 in each one of the basins. So we're going to, now that we're honing in on designing the field is going to move forward. Very soon we're going to visit the site and produce the proper number of test pits in each test pit.
I wasn't concerned about the bases as much as I were those knolls. If you do run into ledge,
Yeah.
a foot down, would you blast those?
No. So the option is, there's 2 options for installing the steel frames for the array systems. One is driving piles. 2 is sitting them on the ground with concrete ballast blocks.
So you do that on ground.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is
Strategy for landfill applications is to use
concrete.
balance.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Any questions from the audience?
Brian version of 500 Weathersfield Street. With respect to the basin that's at Weathersfield Street, could you explain why that one is necessary?
So, Mr. Chairman, the results of our stormwater calculations are based on the state standards, along with the town's stormwater management standards. A portion of the town's stormwater standards requires we model gravel surfaces as impervious areas. So what that does is it almost fictitiously creates more runoff than what the site normally sees. But in order to produce a model that's in compliance with the stormwater standards, we need to install a basin to attenuate that additional flow, that additional stormwater flow. site is developed and the pervious area is added, the same amount of rain falls out of the sky, but what happens is it gets to its destination quicker. Right? So the way to offset that is to install a basin, which will then take this to flow, and then we can release it out of the rate. So the requirement, the law states that the engineer and the applicant must demonstrate that the rate of stormwater leaving the site is no greater than, under proposed conditions, is no greater than the rate of stormwater leaving the site under existing conditions.
Right, and then, because we now have it so that you can monitor the fill that actually goes in there, to keep it clean so it works.
That's right. So I do have details in my plans that show some markers, but I need to provide some clarity in the operations and maintenance checklist criteria.
Now, does that answer your question?
Well,
Yeah.
there's also two other concerns here too. First off, they have a sloped gravel access drive entering the site. That roadway cannot discharge water onto the public roadway because during winter conditions that could possibly cause ice over. We also have a bordering vegetated wetlands located in close proximity, which is not a preferred destination for the discharge of sediment-laden water, because that would overwhelm and negatively impact that vegetated wetlands. And the reason why that's important, you say, well, wetlands is already wet. Why can't we just put water into the wetlands because it's already wet? Well, actually, that is the riskiest place because the wetlands is where groundwater is in close proximity, if not at the surface. And groundwater is your source of drinking water here in the town of Rowley. So if you have sediment-laden water coming into a wetland system in direct contact with the groundwater, which has no soil medium there to filter it, that means any dirt, sediment, pollutants that stormwater carrying then goes right directly to the groundwater, which then gets distributed into your groundwater and reaches your aquifers, etc. So that's the reason why wetlands are not a good place to discharge stormwater.
So the basin facilitates the removal of what they call total suspended solids or silt. So the basin attenuates stormwater for a specific amount of time. Silt settles out, cleans stormwater leaves.
Any other questions?
What was the motivation for moving the entrance to the driveway so far east into the
So the concern was raised by the planning board after hearing concerns from the others. The concern was it was simply too close to the nearby. So we moved it to alleviate that.
If there aren't any other questions, Mr. Chair, clearly there's a need for more information. The office
Yes.
is waiting for various items that
we've listed here.
out, as well as relying upon, especially for our stormwater management application, but also for the notice of intent application, relying upon the technical peer review, which is being initiated by the planning board, so as we don't overburden an applicant with having to provide another technical consultant who utilize the services of the planning board. So if we may, we'd like to know if we have permission for a continuance from the applicant for both the notice of intent application and the stormwater management application.
Confirmed.
All right, so at this point,
So
yeah, you're gonna be meeting with the planning board when?
July 18th, I believe.
Right.
July 18th?
So our
Okay,
next
you-
meeting is July 10th, but then we have a meeting after that for July
Like
31st.
31st. So that would be the next meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna get through planning board first, resolve peer review comments, address Brett's comments.
Yeah, that's basic, and that's what I know he always wants anyways. But the rest of us.
So realistically,
Right.
continuance continuance to the 31st would be more in keeping with your
The schedule, I mean, that'd be,
In my opinion,
yeah, it's the only, I can't see you doing it earlier. Okay, so this time should we make a motion? You know, for both? Or are we gonna do?
Yes, for both. Notice of intent and stormwater management permit with the applicant's permission and continuance to the meeting of July 31st.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Wait, no, one time.
I don't know why you put your heads in the pillow at night.
Late usually. Good.
Okay, is there anyone present for 50 Newbury Road? Looking for 50 Newbury Road.
Good evening, Ben Austin, Range Engineering.
Somebody just read on the... All right, this is a 9 o'clock item. We managed to get it pretty good. Continued notice of intent, 50 Newbury Road, map 5, parcel lot 41, Robert Goulet, ONG Design and Development LLC, owned by Michael Hart, proposed construction of a roadway, 9 single-family residence driveways, stormwater facilities, utilities associated with grading, probably within the DEP approved groundwater protection area. Zone 2, watering vegetated wetlands, 100-foot buffer zone of watering vegetated wetlands, and a vernal pool, habitat priority, habitat for endangered species. That is the floor.
I apologize for not bringing a plan put on the easel, soon to be in the room with the.
All right,
Ever.
I have been bringing that plan to these meetings and they sit and I never put them up. We've been working off. This is the first
Is
time.
that gonna be a problem?
I don't think it
Oh,
is.
it's all-
All right,
Yeah, I don't think it is.
so
Just,
continue notice.
I think, at the last meeting, we talked about some comments that your agent, Brent, had, and we're also waiting for a review from Larry Graham.
Yes.
We received Larry's comments about a week ago, a little less than a week ago, the night of the planning board meeting last week. And there are quite a few minor changes, revisions that he wants to see. We're in the process of making those changes and revisions. There's nothing really major. We did submit plans to last week. We did an electronic copy today. We did a revised hard copy, followed by the electronic copies that addressed his comments. Just with regards to the resource area delineations, how those are delineated, the vernal pool. We've done some additional test pits for the stormwater. Just a bunch of little things that we've made changes to the plans that Brent had concerns with. I don't know if he's had a chance to review those. I know they were brought over late this afternoon. So we are, as I said, we're in the process of making revisions to the plans to address Larry's comments, but we're at this point where we're at is I don't think that Larry's comments are major. They are, there's a lot of minor things that we need to change, and I think it's at the point, it doesn't change the substance of the plan. It's all, it's drainage, some of the design work, labeling, and that sort of thing. So
July 10th, we probably,
Well, but let's,
okay.
Right,
let's
so
talk
where I
about
was
this.
going is, what we'd like to do, we are scheduled to be at the planning board on Monday, the 25th. We're going to submit revised plans to Larry tomorrow, revised drainage calculations. I talked to Larry, and he has said, can we date everything to the 25th, planning, the anticipation that the planning board will approve the plans for the 25th, and then you could follow up on July 10th. What I would ask the commission, is it possible, could they vote to instruct the agent to craft an approval based on Larry's comments, so that we come on the 10th and receive our approval, close the hearing, receive the approval, and basically button this up on the 10th.
Well, traditionally, we need to see the comments from the planning board.
Yeah, so I'm going to interject in here. Again, perspective is everything. I realize Ben is thinking this is, rather de minimis, but substantively, one of the things that Mr. Graham identified was that the hydrology and the drainage analysis did not use the Atlas 14 rainfall precipitation data, which the Commission believes is key to taking a conservative approach to doing the drainage calculations. Now, that being said, more than likely what that represents is the possibility that some of the sizing on the basins, which are already projected and placed within the project, may have to be massaged a bit. Possibly. Hard to say. They are in an area that actually has good infiltration rates, so it's entirely possible that, but without doing a lot of speculating anyway, they do have some work to do in regards to addressing Mr. Graham's observations, which again is why we rely upon him, because you do need to get the drainage analysis correct. On the other side of the coin, except for one minor thing that I talked with Mr. Tremblay today in regards to the removal of a detail from the sheet 16, the erosion control page. They had shown hay bales used in conjunction with silt fence. They'd also shown the silt fence being flat, being put underneath the hay bales. Well, we've moved away from hay bales being utilized as erosion control barriers, and they interpreted my comment suggesting, they didn't interpret my comment as it was supposed to be taken, which was a modification of the dual use of filter sock in combination with silt fence, and the silt fence having its flap embedded in the ground, trenched in. We have utilized that detail in situations where we have large soil stockpiles and we're afraid that the side slope might slump and it would go right over an 8 to 9 inch sock as it came down. The silt fence provides greater height, 16 to 18 inches in height, and so it stops the sock from being overwhelmed when you have large stockpiles. That being said, this project is probably not going to have those large stockpiles because of the small area and the dispersed.
But weren't you going to be building this also in a certain, you weren't going to do it all at once, were you? Didn't we talk it?
Well, we would clear the whole project all at once, build the roads and then individual houses one at a time, and then maybe 3 or 4 going on at once. It would depend on how the sales went. If they sold all 10 on day 1, well, they'd obviously try to work on the whole project all at once. But, I mean, we can add that detail back in. It's a simple thing to bring that back on the plan set. And that was the only issue that Brent had. And I can say, I worked this afternoon on the drainage calcs, and so we use drainage calcs. We use the numbers that on the project 4 miles away in Byfield. Brought them into our program. Apparently they're a little different in Rowley than they are in Byfield, and I didn't catch that. But interestingly, 100-year storm is actually less than we use. So our calcs used a 100-year year storm that was 8.5 inches, it's actually 8.18 inches. So in our largest storm, which is what all basins are sized for, we actually have less water to deal with. So the basins all work. Some outlets need to be adjusted. I think basin 1 needs to be enlarged.
Yeah, we identified an outlet that was discharging Mr. Sullivan's property, which is a no-no unless they've got some kind of easement agreement, because, you know, thou shalt not slough off your stormwater to your abutment.
Right. So, you know, the calcs show that we actually have no runoff going to the Sullivan project in the post-development from design point 1. And so we have to make the pond just a little bit larger to accommodate that. The pond in the back, pond 3, that's actually oversized, but we had a little problem with the 10-year storm, so we just adjust the outlet. But, you know, it actually turns out that it's very minor, the differences in the rainfall. They were a little bit different, but the differences are minor. And that's all going to come out in the calculations to show that we meet all the regulations.
So the commission could consider voting a contingency to issue, not put any date limitation except the outside date of the next meeting. And that would give them the opportunity to resolve and address all the calculation issues. What we're looking for from Mr. Graham is we're looking for Mr. Graham to be able to issue a statement that says that the revised drainage calculations and the revised plan set meets or exceeds, is compliant with the town of Rowley stormwater erosion control bylaw and the stormwater standards of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So they would have to resolve any further plan issues with the office. But again, we're talking relatively minor details. They've already addressed substantively all the things that were identified in the plan reviews. It's not anticipated that the plans are going to change in any major manner. Kurt, what do you think?
Well, as long as if you find that there are issues that bring them back to us.
Well, that's what I say. That's why if we don't set a date, in a sense, we've sort of done a de facto continuance. If they don't get everything resolved and get a clean bill of health from Mr. Graham, then they'll be back before us at the July 10th meeting with us trying to figure out when these things are going to get resolved. If they do get everything resolved, and therefore that allows me, representing the interests of the commission, to craft and issue a bylaw order of conditions and a stormwater management plan. So that's what this project is before us.
Right, just to remind everyone, we have no work in the buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands.
I know, we'll get stormwater management.
Stormwater management is the issue.
Sam? You okay with that? Put the cat below the horse, so to speak, but...
Well, it's
terrible.
when there's been discrete items that need to be addressed by the professionals, either as plan revisions or as revisions to the operation and maintenance plan or the stormwater analysis, the commission has in the past voted a contingency to issue. Usually attached a day limit, such as the 14 days. Just recognizing they're discrete.
Let me just pool the rest.
Well, the only thing I have to say is we've got Mr. Graham involved in this, and his firm is got a workload on it, so that's why I'm suggesting we set the next meeting anyway. So in a sense, this is kind of, if things don't get resolved, this ends up being a continuance. If things do get resolved, it gives me the ability to issue an order. But again, yes, you folks need to all feel comfortable.
How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I think we can set the date.
I stopped down the office all the time. I'm sure it's everything.
Well, I would circulate the signature
Right.
sheets for you tonight, and they would, again, only be used if these gentlemen, with their plan modifications and their drainage analysis calculations, get all those issues resolved, as well as get a positive affirmative statement on H.L. Graham.
Okay. Back to Sam. No pressure, I don't, Okay.
Any other comments?
Could I just say something quick to the commission? Rob Boulay from OMG. One of the issues we had is because of Larry Graham's workload. We did submit stuff, folks, almost 7 weeks ago to Larry, and we just got it back last week. That's been working previously for us because we also left the ZBA meeting on Thursday, so that's why we're looking for this sort of vote like this. I believe, Brett, you can speak on this. Larry, I believe you spoke with Larry, if he was okay with what he's seen, and sort of thought it was okay for us to go down
Yeah,
this route.
well, we discussed sort of a splitting of the responsibilities. We're going to have parking and trail access, and so we discussed that the commission would craft, and one of its conditions would be to have field inspection and determination of where trail markers and what kind of posts and signage would work from those two public parking spaces going to the back there. There's another mitigating circumstance in here. Now, Natural Heritage, for whatever reason, said that, and I have to look and see what they tagged this to, but Natural Heritage said that within 3 months, these folks need to accomplish deeding the open space to the town. I'm not sure what they set that on. I'm not sure if they set that on initiation of breaking ground for the project or something else. I've got to read their letter again because this is kind of unusual for them to set a time period. So we have been communicating with Attorney Catherine Warren and made a request for her because we need to be provided with the title report. We need to find out that there's clear title, has been researched or whatever involved in this, because that's one of the conditions for the town to accept property, is it needs to be granted with a clear title. There can't be any obstruction. So that would be conditioned in the order also, just as we normally do. Instead of conditioning a CR be put in place, we're conditioning that the property be transferred. But in this situation, Natural Heritage has for some reason given us a time limit. So we just worked that because we always incorporate Natural Heritage's letters with their conditions into our issued orders anyway. It's not a complicating factor, it's just a little different for them to actually give us the time period duration. But actually that puts more of the onus on them to get.
I think they wanted to see that, kind of force us to actually give it to you, not just say we're doing it and then it never happens.
Well, but we wouldn't condition that it could never happen anyway.
Right, I know that. But you know how those things kind of fall through the cracks and then you go get a COC.
If you guys want to build a bunch of structures that have no occupancy permits, go right ahead.
Right. But they were pretty, you know, I think they were pretty amenable to the fact that they were giving such a large chunk.
Oh, yeah.
To the town that was going to, have.
Again, there's been no question that that's.
Right, and I think
this is a very
if we need a little bit of an extension, I think they'll work with us on that, as long as we follow through and actually convey the property to the town.
When is the planning board meeting?
So they did a special meeting it's Monday, and it's a special meeting just for us.
This
because,
Monday?
Yeah, Monday the 25th, and the reason why is for the same reason, because of the time frame that took H.L. Graham to review. The meeting's only for our, hopefully,
So in all probability, Larry Graham will install the things. Then I don't have a problem.
Just as I provided a list, Mr. Graham, within his review, provided a list of discrete items for them, with what they needed to do to address those items. So,
All right, let me put it to a board on a vote. Do I hear such a motion?
Well, could the motion be more fully described in detail, please?
Yes. That we will, that pending the Graham's letter and everything being correct, Brent, we will,
subject to office review, issuance of a
Issue the
bylaw,
bylaw.
notice of intent, and a stormwater management permit, subject to office review of plans, drainage analysis, operations and maintenance plan, and positive technical review conducted by A.H.L. Graham Associates, as well as conditioning deeding of the open space property and appropriate conditions for public access to the open space.
I will move that.
do you think you can actually get that done? Okay.
Plans are.
Well, I've listened to
Tomorrow.
Mr. Sullivan today about how slow they've been dragging their feet on that.
That's a conservation restriction. That's a lot more paperwork than this.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Any nays? None? Unanimous? Okay, let's do both the stormwater management and for the bylaw notice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
See you on the 10th. Finish.
Whatever that. We have we jumped over the reorganization.
Oh.
No, we did that last time too.
Well, we just announced that that was going to be an item. So I believe our two commissioners up for reappointment, or both reappointed.
Yes, one for me. Sworn in?
Yes.
When was that, last night?
This afternoon.
Oh, well, what do we have?
That's the only thing. If the officers of the board wish to continue their service through the rest of the commission and the rest of the commission, or whether some other
Unless somebody
Take a
else wants,
turn.
somebody else wants it for a turn or whatever, I don't.
Yeah, we'd like you guys to.
You don't want to.
No, I'm just asking. Somebody is, I'm glad we
Yeah.
started something.
I think you do. I could have that one.
Couldn't do it.
I move that we reorganize with the same process as before. Coming year.
Yeah, for the year.
Like 1, 3.
Yeah, there's 3 times the pay, right? Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Howard's not here?
Welcome to another tour. of
Howard's
duty.
not here, lucky he doesn't come back as chairman. That's not taking back again.
First time, it's another.
Yes, would you people like to address the meeting? Okay. Want to go, Keith?
In consideration of an adjournment?
Yes, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.